When we were planning this Dev Summit, we knew that by the end of today, folks would be tired, folks would be motivated to try something new, and we would be watching people sort of drift off. So what we scheduled for this time slot is lightning talks. The way these are supposed to work is you come up here and you take the microphone and you tell us the cool thing that you want to work on in OpenShammy between now and the next time we get together. Maybe you have something to show, but probably you don't. And this allows us to kind of talk about the stuff that we found most interesting, the stuff that we are motivated to get going on. I'm going to start out with something I teased at the beginning of yesterday. And then I'm going to ask for volunteers to come up and say, I want to try whatever. And it can be 10 seconds. And that's all you need to do. So we started talking yesterday or 2 days ago or something like that about this idea that I had for a coding agent that people could use that understands OpenShammy and can reason about our GitHub and build software. And now I would like to introduce you, I showed this a little bit earlier today, if I can figure out how to use a mouse, to Marvin. So Marvin, named for the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy paranoid android, who was not actually very paranoid and unclear that was actually an android, but quite morose and very smart. So I'll show you what he looks like in a minute, but the way this that I have worked to prove that this might work is I said, well, an LLM needs some structure in order to know how to work. So I created this YAML structure that's like, which repos should you go get? How do I test them? What models do I want to try to use? How should I describe the task context? I stole this from someone else who said this is a great way to tell the models how to work. And then the problem up at the top, deliverables at the bottom, some information about the requirements, notes, stuff like that. I actually didn't specifically describe all of these YAML fields. I found it to be emergent because I asked the model to provide me with a better YAML and then a better YAML, and I just expected it to rebuild the YAML structure I already had. It gave me new fields, and then when I plugged them in, it did things with them. So that was actually kind of cool. So what it's working on now is I gave it, it actually generated this, this YAML by looking at an issue that I wanted to work on but haven't had time to, which is the adding of the network, base64 network encoding to the command line for setting up a system. And so this is Marvin working. And Marvin did all of this while we were sitting here in the last 10 minutes. I'll just come over here. It identified that it needs to look through how things work. Oh, it just finished. Well, so it just finished. It took 15 minutes. Yeah, we're largely unimpressed. I added snark. Some of it is hard-coded snark, and some of it is truly model-generated snark. Without a model personality, so the model personality adds roughly 1% to the token count. I feel like that's reasonable. You may not. You can disable it. It figured things out. I haven't obviously looked at this yet, so it just finished. I can copy this out and I can take a look. The other thing is it understands Git, it understands Go, it has already done a bunch of commits, obviously not pushing anything anywhere, it doesn't have the ability to do that, but it knows how to do discrete steps, and it knows how to write tests, and it knows how to validate tests. And so those are the kind of the structure that it uses to figure out if it's done the right thing. Hopefully, this is all based on a tool at LANL called URSA, which is a multi-agentic framework that was originally created for research. I just kind of hijacked it and gave it other things to do, and it has been pretty cool. So there you go. I told you I was working on Marvin. Marvin exists. He's sitting there winking at you, right? Actually, he's crying. Look at that. I didn't even know he could cry. All right. So this is what I want to work on. I want to make it easier for everyone in the OpenShammy community to write, to contribute software and to write software. This doesn't absolve you of the idea that you have to like check that it's doing the right thing, but this is probably going to give you a good start that it's not going to hallucinate its way outside of its box. Who else wants to talk about something cool that they want to do because of what they saw this week, either at the User Summit or at the rest of the conference? All right.
I think the cool ones are the, I know Chris and Travis and I have talked about the Kubernetes stuff, so I haven't seen what you guys have done there, and that will be very interesting to do. Also, I think everybody talked about secrets, and that's something that we've been talking about internally at Dell for the last several weeks. So timely, and probably something that we'll be looking at is how do we do a better job of implementing a secret stash inside of OpenShammy.
Who's next? Let's do stuff. No one else wants to do anything?
Oh, somebody wants to do something. I like the auto agent. We've been talking about that too for Omnia, just to sit there and read issues and propose solutions. Somebody will have to look at them though. While I'm up here and just asking questions, and has anybody thought about what we'll do if we do start to get a flood of nonstop issues and awesome PRs from all around the world of agents?
So we started out actually with the idea, we didn't know that agents were going to be the problem, but we knew that given that it's HPC and it's system management and it's the command and control for our supercomputers that are clearly being used at LANL, we needed a supply chain answer. And so the same supply chain answer that protected us before will protect us in the future. You need to be a verified person who is willing to sign off on your commits, who has some form of cryptographic certification that you are who you say you are. And we have to do pull requests. We have to review your pull requests. Yeah. So the stuff that's coming in from someone we've never heard of is likely to be scrutinized much higher. And we've actually rejected some decent stuff because we couldn't figure out who it was that was proposing it. We ended up re-implementing some of the ideas, but we didn't want to just take their code without knowing where it came from. And I think that that'll be the case for, if we have a flood of AI stuff, maybe we'll adapt to that with AI, but I think the same things that protect you in a pre-AI world should be the start of what protects you in a post-AI world.
Out of curiosity, have you watched the presentation from the Microsoft guy? I think that was very, scary. And one question is, since I see you are using OpenAI, and I think everybody's using OpenAI, do you foresee to move to fully open source AI where you basically tune? For example, in our case, we are trying to do at CSCS Apertus, where it's not like technology is similar to Llama, but the data is fully checked and versioned, so you can be fully sure on how it's been trained. And since Livermore and all DOE labs, I think security is very important. I would like to hear from you if you are going to have a similar attempt or.
So thankfully, we have AI researchers at LANL who are smarter than I am, and they are the ones who have decided which of the models I'm allowed to use. And so I just use through the AI portal that they provide. I'm sure they're thinking about it. I think the balance between effectiveness and data provenance and commercial relationships and all of the other things is part of what they're dealing with. But having talked to them a couple of times, I know very little about how they are making these decisions. I'm just glad I don't have to.
We have access to a wide variety of models. And there's not really clear, instruction on what, there is for, protected data, what you can use and what you can't use. But as far as generating code that we're using for projects like this, it's still kind of wide open, and like so we have access to a whole world of them for our whole development team.
I have another question.
Go ahead. Well, do you want to come up here and join us?
No, I mean, but I'm not a brainstorming developer.
Oh, you're a friend.
Now you are.
Unfortunately, I cannot say something about OpenChami since I'm not a developer. One question is in general, and I don't know, using this agent, have you foresee if it could be a potential infringement or problem from the copyright point of view? Because it's, I mean, we have a hard talk at CSCS if we should allow, I mean, anyone is using that. And yeah, since you mentioned before, from my side, I would like to try out the tutorial. And I was writing to the people at CSCS, even if it's midnight almost. So, but I'm not in charge of developing anything, and that's all.
So I saw the same Microsoft talk, and I thought that it was really like informative, scary, but as I was going through the separate CVEs and the separate things that I could worry about, there was most of those that I feel are already covered by the way that we use AI for this. The slop, what it was called, the slop squatting, which was a word that I had never heard before, but I was familiar with that kind of thing from NPM. You didn't need AI to do that. You could just, right, like that happened. And so there's a whole lot of ecosystem stuff that built up around protecting against that. It's more of an ecosystem problem than an individual developer problem. We still have to do the PR reviews, and I actually realized that like the imports is not a thing that I generally look at, so now I want to, and I want to find a linter that can do all of those things. But the copyright stuff I thought was settled by the commercial relationship with OpenAI, and I need to figure that out because as far as I know, code that is generated by ChatGPT that I then use, I own the copyright on that file. Okay. Not ChatGPT, and there may be a gray area around the training data from that, but I don't think that there's been anyone who has said that that's, and I know that GitHub actually has some tools that are constantly checking for that exact, like, oh, this has just been pulled out of that other project and into this. And so we haven't seen any flags for that. GitHub's been great about helping us with those sorts of things. So I don't know.
I inferred that being in HPSF and Linux Foundation could help on this side, in theory.
Still totally the wrong person to be answering his question. I did get directed to the Linux Foundation legal guidance on this, which was, I don't know. I mean, it was like I read through it and I was like, the first time I read through it, I thought, we're good. The second time I read through it, I thought, maybe not. But I feel like it's teaspoons against the tide. Because this has already happened?
Yeah, that's true. That's, I mean, definitely everybody's using that. So,
yeah. So if the whole of the software industry has to completely change because the OpenAI trained on the wrong things, someone else is going to have to tell me what to do with it.
Yeah.
It's bigger than me. All right, is there anyone else that wants to talk about the things that they enjoyed this week, things that they want to do next?
All right, it's on. I can't tell. Yeah, so we've been working on this project to boot OpenShift workers with OpenShami. And I had a student project, and they had a poster at Supercomputing. I was trying to find it, and I couldn't find it on my machine, where you can swap between Kates and Slurm with kexec, and it takes like 3 minutes. And you could probably get that down even more. And this is all stateless, so you have to figure out Kubernetes workers on a stateless node. But the idea is that we can scale our AI-ready resources, whatever. I don't really care about AI that much, but I'm supposed to care for my job, I guess. But I figure if we can build a platform for AI to run on, then I can survive the incoming AI wars. So yeah, so that's like one of our big projects, and I think we've already done it kind of. It's still way more OpenShift, and we had to do a little bit of janky things with their machine files and stuff to make it work. But if we can get it down to like a really fast, 3 to 5 minute swap, or just scale it up and down at will, then I don't know. Someone else can write a meta scheduler and do something with it. I don't know. It's not going to be me. And then the other thing is, I don't know. So we talked about Bootsy yesterday, and I learned. I don't know. I think today I learned more about it, and I don't think it's going to be a tomorrow thing. But I've been working on this like multi-image boot kind of thing, and I guess I can show it. Oh, thanks. I guess we'll see. It's not like super. It was easier than I thought, and so it's not that like impressive. So I'm not gonna spend too much time on it. But oh my god, sorry, it's the opposite way, and it like.
I did see that poster.
Oh.
Computing.
Oh yeah.
I was very excited when I read it and took a picture and sent it to a lot of people.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it was kind of, it was obviously like a toy example. Okay, this thing is not happy. Okay, so. Oh my God.
So while you sort this out, like we've got interns that come every summer, and we give them things to do, and we give them as much help as we can. But ultimately, they do the work. And so the Open HPC one was a student project that we got done. So this that you're talking about started that way. We had a student that put OpenShami inside the switches, so that those could run. So you wouldn't even need a node to run OpenShami. If you guys have ideas for things that are going to make OpenShami more successful, make it easier for you to use, we're always looking for things for our students to do. I mean, we come up with all kinds of ideas, but yours might be better.
Which switches have you used?
Any Sonic-based switches. So Sonic-based switches were what we tried out.
We did run into like an annoying bug with.
Yeah.
Was it TFTP?
No, it was a DHCP
okay.
moving from one VLAN to another. Thing that I'm told is now fixed.
Okay. Sorry, you have to look at my crappy bash, but so I wrote a Dracket module. I don't know if anybody's like gone down the Dracket module nightmare, but so I wrote this, and right now it supports like direct NFS mounts. It'll download an image, and then you can do NetSquash. I call it NetSquash, which is NFS mount with a bunch of squash files in it. And the idea is you can combine all these together into one file system, like while you're booting a node, and then pivot root into it. And then
You just do this in memory.
well, the NFS, so you can do a live OS in memory, so that it'll curl your squashfs file. But the NFS one is not in memory because it's NFS mounted. And you can mix and match these, and it will just run through all the lowers, and then hopefully it all works really well. And then, so lesson learned, dep mod has to be rerun, or your kernel will be unhappy when you do this. So you just mount all your lowers, however they're set to mount, and then I'm sorry, I skipped the mount everything to a lower, right? So just use overlay on top of this, multiple lowers, and you create your overlay FS, and then you boot into it, and you update sysroot, and then you just return 0, and you're good to go.
Do you cloud in it and become whatever you're supposed to be?
Yeah. So if you do like this one's all, I was testing on all.
Do you need me to buy a microphone stand?
No, it's just fine. But so you can see there's multiple like squashfs files all mounted as a lower. And I need to write some tools to like better debug this, but because this is like super ugly, but so you can see. Hold on, this is our. I can't scroll up. Hold on, you're gonna make me grep. Well, I was just gonna show the overlay. So yeah, there's just a bunch of like. Hold on, let me find the one. Man, I cannot see this sideways. Hold on. Yeah. Oh yeah, sorry, it's the last one. So yeah, so you just have a bunch of lowers all mounted in order, and then it boots into like a zombie image or something, right? Oh boy, what is it? I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Yeah.
So what's the use case? Is this like so you can separate out kind of different people doing different parts and?
Well, so I don't know. Yeah, so I haven't like, so like this is a GPU node, right? So I think it's very old, but and that did not format very well on that zoomed in. But so this is a GPU node, right? So I built, like, using my image builder and pipeline or whatever, I built an NVIDIA layer, and all it does is just install the drivers.
Right.
It doesn't have anything else in it, and maybe like some adjacent packages for like services just related to GPUs, right? And then I have another layer that's just compute, and it just has basic things like users might expect, like Vim or whatever. And then I have two other layers. One is Slurm. All the Slurm packages are there. And I was thinking the idea is I'd have a Kates one, and everything else stays the same.
Yes, I can just kind of swizzle.
Yeah.
So I have racks that are all Slurm or Kubernetes.
Yeah. So, like if I go here.
Like, oh, I see there's some Slurm nodes sitting there empty. Let's make them work well. That'll never happen.
Yeah.
But I need more Kubernetes nodes for all these other workloads. Let me sacrifice some Slurm nodes.
Right.
Yeah, I need better like info tools or like a way to like show like but like these images are the same ones, are part of the same ones the other node had. It's just this doesn't have a GPU, so it doesn't mount the GPU layers.
Right.
So the idea is I can have like I can build all this in parallel. So if I change something, it only build things that have changed. And if I change something like real low, I would change the kernel or something that it affects everything else, and then it just you can build all this in parallel. Again, I haven't like tested this anywhere or done anything like I don't know outside of like our little like dev cluster, and some other ideas was like you can build in like configs right into a container image,
Right.
and then make a squash or whatever, right? So you could just it doesn't have to be a file system, right? So you could put like a bunch of like security layers, or you could put your Slurm config in there if you wanted, and then regenerating that is like super fast, and then you just apply it on top of everything. Anyway, that's the idea. So
Cool. So it's like the image builder, but instead of re-squashing everything into one squashfs, every layer gets
everything
to be its own.
Everything's something is. Nothing works until you combine at the end.
So this is Voltron.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they're just layers, and instead of like having a big sort of chain of things that converge, all the convergence happens on boot. Yeah.
So
It
this
lets
is
you pick pieces. And again, I don't have like a production system or anything running it, but that's the idea. So.
Can we call this the image builder Voltron style?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
All right. Unless anyone else wants, we're at time. You have survived the entirety of the OpenShammy Community Day. I thank you all for attending. So now, if anyone else wants to stand up and talk before we all leave, this is your last chance. I'm really glad that nobody stood up. So, yeah. So thanks a lot to everyone who came. This was really valuable. This was really great, and I appreciate all of you. I look forward to seeing you again soon.